At this time, we want to welcome you to the weekly Wednesday workshop. I'm Felicia Bell, an ag specialist for the Gulf States Regional Office located in Jackson, Mississippi. We welcome Ms. Vicki Morrone from Michigan State University. She will be talking to you today about organic farming. And so we want to welcome her and definitely want you to continue to follow our weekly Wednesday workshop. She will be on again on the 18th. So not the next Wednesday. We will not have her next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after. So please join us again for some more information on organic farming. So at this time, I want to hand it over to Ms. Vicki. Wanted her to give a little backstory of how she even got into organic farming and at Michigan State, and then we will proceed with her presentation. Ms. Vicki?
Thank you very much, Felicia, for that nice warm welcome. So today I'm going to share with you some information, not specific to Michigan by any stretch of the imagination, but specifically for organic farming, either certified or not. We'll cover both situations and discuss the possibilities that each offer, especially for a beginner organic farmer. And so I'm lucky enough, I live on 5 acres. That was my dream, is to finally be able to buy some land. Well, me and the bank, of course. But and with that, I already had my job at Michigan State working with organic farming, and I sought the position because I saw there was a big gap in the Center for Regional Food Systems around production, and I thought, if the Center for Regional Food Systems wants to look at local and healthy and affordable, boy, organic is really the challenge. And I say challenge because you know what the price of organic milk is. I say no more. So I raise organic blueberries, organic vegetable garden, which has enough tomatoes, onions, and peppers, and other things too, but to can enough spaghetti sauce for my family, including my 2 children who are on their own, but they still come home with their empty jars waiting for mom to fill them up. And then I have organic fruit. And in the Midwest, organic fruit like pears and apples are a very big challenge because of our summer rains. So there's something to think about if you deal with summer rains. That's why we see so many of our organic fruit coming from California, where there are not summer rains, and which makes it a little bit easier in terms of disease management. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to share with you organic farming, a big decision for you and your business. Any farming is a commitment, but organic farming is one more layer of commitment that you should make that decision on based on all your values and needs for your enterprise. Okay. So today we're going to discuss whether to produce organically. Does this fit into your plan, your system, and then learning what it means to grow organically. I'll discuss the requirements, the system, the challenges, and I hope that as I discuss them, you will come back at the end with some critical questions that will help you better figure things out for your potential farming business. And then whether investing in organic certification, is that the right step for you to do now or maybe in the future? And then what skills are needed to produce and sell organic produce or products. So some values that are typical for a person to choose organic includes improve humans and environmental health, in terms of pesticide residue, in terms of really understanding what the soil needs and addressing it accordingly, not just adding nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, a bag of fertilizer, because that's what they say, add 20 pounds of that to the acre, but you are relying on a soil test and going from there and relying on your observations. And the real technical piece, I think, is reducing exposure to toxic chemicals. If you've ever sprayed chemicals and read the label, you'll know what I mean. More marketing opportunities. The price you receive on organic certified products can be anywhere from 20 to 40%. Of course, it depends on the product. It depends on your market. And then less dependency on pesticides. Well, that's good, but it's a challenge for the farmer, because that means they need to understand the whole system. So you follow IPM, or integrated pest management approaches. It's a whole system where you understand the critter that's causing the problem, you understand what it needs, what it doesn't need, and that's what you shoot for, and then how to manage it so that it doesn't become a big problem. And then markets, what local markets that you would like to sell to, what is their demand for organic? You interview the market buyer, you go to the produce section if it's a small IGA grocer or a farmer's market, look around, see who has organic, who doesn't, see how people respond when they see organic in the market. You know, you have to be a really good observer to make a market assessment. And then what is it that you and your family, your farm family, it might be actually relatives or people that you work with, want to contribute to a safer food production system? Challenges, well, there's a few challenges in organic farming, and probably is learning weed management. Weed management is the biggest challenge in organic, and that's why you see so many organic vegetable farms using a weed cover or a mulch, a plastic mulch. You see fruit farms using some sort of living cover mulch in between the trees. You see, and that's for production ag in terms of, that's why animals combined with a field crop work well, because animals, what do? They eat weeds. No, they don't eat thistle, but they eat a lot of weeds, and they can help build your soil and manage weeds. There are limited pesticide options, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. What are the options available to organic? And you have to keep good records. Any good business keeps good records, because you use them for not just the logistics of the National Organic Program, the people who have prescribed the requirements for organic, but for yourself to know what works in your markets, what works on your farm, what meets your budget, what helps pay the bills. And then how can you improve post-harvest quality? And I say that because organic typically has very few, if any, fungicides, pesticide that controls or stops fungus development. And fungus is what you get when you store your pumpkins. Maybe right now, you go lift the pumpkin up off the dining room table and you cringe. It's all white and soft and gushy. That's a fungus. And so because the organic product is not treated with a fungicide, it's more likely to have problems. So you want the best conditions as you store your crop before you sell it. Storage crops like potatoes, carrots, and cabbage. And then you need to figure out how are you going to meet expectations of the organic inspectors and certifiers, as well as your markets who are seeking the organic. So to give you a perspective of what type of income is available for organic, this is these are numbers that you and I will never see in our pocket or in our bank account, but it gives you a range. So you can see, let me go up here, grab my mouse. There we go. So you see packaged salads. Those are the salads that are pre-mixed. That's all the rage. You know, you buy the mix, you dump it in the bowl, you throw dressing on, throw a few tomatoes on, you've got a salad. Well, they are very much in demand, especially in the organic world, because salads are perceived as healthy. They are as a healthy food, and then you put an organic combined with that healthy food, you've got a winner. And then even lettuce, it's in the top 9 products that are sold organic. And note that's 2016, but that was our last printing of our USDA Ag Census. And carrots are high on the list. Well, what do we feed our kids for a snack? Carrots. Give them a little, even ranch dip is better with carrots than just eating candy, right? Or hummus. And apples, another children's favorite, and berries. And then herbs and spices, and I put asterisks besides these 3, because for beginners, I think they're, for someone looking to do vegetable production, these are a real potential. Packaged salads, so you do a green mix in a hoop house, and you cut that once a week, and you sell that by the pound, either pre-rinsed or unrinsed, depending on what your market wants. Herbs and spices and seasoning, they're dried, so you don't have to worry about that post-harvest challenge. You harvest them, you dry them, and you package them and label them. And a lot of herbs will fall under what we call the cottage food law. Check with your state to see if they have the cottage food law. And that means you don't even need a certified kitchen to prepare these spice blends because they're dried and that they're safe. So it's called the cottage food law. It's like cottage cheese, cottage food law. Check if your state has that. And lettuce is another easy to grow in the hoop house. I know Felicia's down in Mississippi. Well, maybe now they can grow lettuce out in the field. Here in Michigan, we grow lettuce in our hoop house or under a row cover, floating row cover. But people are, lettuce is a quick turnover. People don't buy 15 pounds of it and call it good. They buy a head a week. And that's good for a small scale farmer because you can meet that market demand easier than if you were to say potatoes, which people typically buy 10 pounds at one time. Then let's look at the difference between the prices or the growth in organic food versus conventional. So this is total food. So this would be conventional plus organic, and this is organic food. We see the growth of demand from 2009 to 2010, there was 8%, and let's go up here to 2016. From 2015 to 2016, there was 9% growth. So we see positive growth each year and greater than 3%, which is what the overall food industry is seeing in terms of growth of food sales. And this includes meat, cheese, and vegetables and fruits. So you can see the percentage, the total growth over time is very positive. And, sadly, this COVID time, the growth of organic has gone through the roof. We aren't seeing that in this 2019, but it's going to be really fun to look at the statistics in the next phase. So, let me move all this stuff here. What is organic certification? Well, you follow the NOP, that stands for National Organic Program, Organic Practices. And those regulations were developed in 2000 by the US Department of Agriculture. Each state, prior to that, each state had their own regulations. And they said, we need to make this consistent across the board. So say I live in Michigan. Chicago is not too far from me, but it's a different state. So if I wanted to sell my product in Chicago, I want it to be able to qualify as organic, even though I'm coming from Michigan. So there's the value of the fact that it's a federal program and it's consistent. Doesn't mean every state has its own regulations. So that way everybody follows the same rules and the buyer, the consumer, the wholesaler knows what they're getting. So you make to transition, you make a 3-year farm management plan. That means you say, what did you grow 3 years prior on that piece of land each season? And what do you plan to grow 3 years ahead? And that's trying to help you plan for nutrient management and pest management. And it's a form that, question and answer. I put mine on the computer and I just update it each year, and I find it much easier. You don't have to put it on the computer. You can do it by hand if that suits your system better. But the point is to develop a whole farm approach. So you're not just thinking of how much N does my corn need, nitrogen. You're thinking about what are the key pests? What are my key issues? What does my soil need? How does it all work together to improve the system, to manage the pests and improve crop and soil health? And then you do this process with a U.S. Department of Agriculture organic certifying agency. And I know in Michigan, we do not have any agencies here, but that doesn't matter. I can choose anybody as long as they're USDA certified to inspect and certify organic farms. There are farmers here in Michigan that have Oregon Tilth out of Oregon who come to their farm to certify. There's people with CCOF, that's the California Organic. They're the first to come around, and some people have high regard for them. And they bring them out to their farm to do the certification. So it's up to you. And remember, it's up to you. You are hiring them. You are asking them to certify your farm, but you need to like their style. You need to agree with their system of how they communicate, how they manage their arrangements for verification of your paperwork, how they manage their inspector to come visit you. So you say, how much is it? Well, it's about $750. That's not, don't take this to the bank, but it's about $750 per premium, per certificate. And that means, say, for example, you decide I'm going to sell organic eggs and I'm going to sell organic vegetables. So you have your chickens and your poultry pen and your area for the chickens to meander, and then the eggs and your washing station. That's one system. And that system will be inspected and certified differently, independently from your vegetable system. The inspector will then look at your paperwork for your vegetables and look at your field, look at how you're building your soil, where are you buying your seed, how are you storing any leftover seeds away from other seeds that are not organic. So there are requirements for each ag sector, if you will, each enterprise, so that you can qualify for the certification of organic. So pricing produce, you do it according to what the market can support, right? But you, as the farmer who is doing this enterprise, must account for organic certification. You must account for your extra cost involved, not only for this $750, but for your extra time of managing weeds, for your purchasing manure or compost versus NPK. A 50-pound bag of NPK is so much cheaper than buying the equivalent amount of nitrogen in the form of compost. So that needs to be accounted for, and that's another reason for keeping good books. And you see these sources down here if you ever want to take a look about where these numbers come from and where this information comes from. And this will be recorded and provided to you on the listserv, on the NCAT listserv. So here, this is something that you and I walk into the grocery store, we see a bag of organic, it's $2.33, versus the conventional is about $1.66. And these were, there was like 4 examples from different stores. I just took the average. And so we see about a 40% difference. So with apples, yeah, but I've seen apples the same price. So that's why your market assessment is critical for your area and for the markets where you're going to be selling. And lettuce always gets a premium because why? Lettuce gets diseases that can be a fungal organism that makes it tricky to control. So you have to have good soil and good management practices and good scouting. I hope everybody's familiar with that term, scouting. If you have an IPM program, integrated pest management, that means you go out in your fields, in your trees, in your paddocks of your animals, and with your notebook, you go and look around for any issues and write them down and figure out what are you going to do about them. So that's really important because organic does not have systemic fungicides. That's fungicides that enter the plant through the roots and travel inside the plant. We have good management, good soils, and good IPM approaches to control the problems. So then you say, well, how do I pay for this organic certification? Well, thank goodness for our U.S. Farm Bill. Our U.S. Farm Bill is part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. It's a bill that comes about every 4 years, and this last go around was last year, and this time it provides up to $500 per scope. Remember I said you'd have to have your chickens and your vegetables inspected separately? The chickens is one scope, the vegetables are another scope. So for each scope or organic certificate, you are eligible for up to $500 or 50%, whichever is less, of the cost of your actual certification. And so how do you do that? You go to your local farmer service agency, FSA office, that's typically in your county, and you bring in your certificate, that's after you've been certified, your receipts, and a canceled check, because they will deposit that money directly into your bank account. But this is something that for all you beginners, and you want to sell organic, if you're selling less than $5,000 worth of organic produce, you do not need to be certified, but you must follow the practices. That means you need to keep the records. That means you need to only add inputs that are allowed in organic, but you you do not receive this because you do not need to apply to a certifying agency. It's up to you. You can, but you don't have to. And the purpose of that is to sort of like a starter packet for potential organic farmers. Give it a try, see if it works for you, see if you understand the system. And then if it does, and you start earning more than $5,000, not profit, but gross, $5,000 worth of organic produce, then you can proceed to have go for organic certification. So it's really important to think about all the things that are needed to make it work. And this is true not just for organic, but for really smart organic or smart farming. You want good soil. You want to plan your crops and your markets. And what do you mean plan your crops? Well, you're planting your crops according to what the market demand is, but you're also thinking about crop rotation. The big challenge is with crop rotation with things like poultry. You say, well, I'm going to do chickens every year. Okay, so you make sure you manage your floors of your coops so that they're clean and so that the diseases cannot build. So it's a really strong IPM. You also look at your breed of your animals, that they're disease resistant, that they're more hardy. You see beef cows that are chosen by organic farmers because they're good grazers, because they're hardy. They go out and they survive, they thrive, they don't just survive. The same with chickens. There's poultry that are very good pasture hens, and then there's some that are just, these wimpy things that the first time a virus comes around, they get sick. So, but managing pests is a big piece of it, and building your soil helps greatly to reduce your pests in crops, but also remember, your animals are feeding on your soil, grazing, browsing. They too need a healthy soil so that what they eat is good for them. So here is something I would like to introduce to you. It's called OMRI, Organic Material Review Institute. It's a free directory, online directory, that you can look up the potential product that you want to use. For example, this is a miticide. And if you have poultry, you know all about miticides, I hope, because poultry are classic to get mites. And you say, can I use this brand in an organic system? Okay, I look at my label, I see it's been manufactured by Key Metal Industrial, SA. And I see over here this R, that means restricted. There's A for allowable, R for restricted, P for prohibited. R is kind of like the middle of the road. It means it is allowed under certain circumstances. So you read the full gamut here and you see, do you fall within those circumstances? But if you are organic certified and you're using a product for the very first time, it's essential that you contact your certifying agency before you use the product. Otherwise, you could lose certification if they don't allow it. There are some wiggle room in the certifier's requirements for them to how they enforce the NOP regulations. So it's up to them sometimes. But I mean, it's not unreasonable. It's just, things change a lot, and there's always a little bit of room for interpretation. Oh, sorry. So now if you decided you want to produce organically or become certified, you need to get your ducks in a row. And I put this down. These are the requirements for certification, but it's also important for any good organic farmer so that you know what works and what doesn't. So write a plan to transition to organic. Create a farm map with unique field labels so that you know that the product that you harvested yesterday came from ABC field and not CDE field. Because if anything ever happens, God forbid, then they come back to you and say, hey, somebody got sick from that lettuce. Where did it come from? Oh, it's from this field. Okay, so you quarantine that field for, X days or whatever they recommend. That's part of food safety. Food safety is becoming intertwined in all of our agronomic systems, regardless if it's organic, conventional, IPM, no-till. It's very important for the safety of our customers. want to keep them alive so they keep eating, right? So include where you get your organic inputs, everything from seed to fertilizer to compost to your sprays. Create a bookkeeping system that works for you, but that's complete. Have somebody else take a look at it to see if it's clear, if it has all the information you need. You can have your certifying agency help you too. That's part of that. They can help you get there for certification. They just can't advise you on their practices. For example, they can't tell you which crop to grow. They can't tell you which type of compost to add to your soil, but they can tell you if that compost is allowed in the organic system. So continue to build your knowledge, go to conferences, attend sessions like you are doing today. Visit markets and see what they want. Talk to the market, the buyer, whether it's for meat or whether it's for vegetables or fruit. Go and talk to them. If it's a market master at a farmer's market, hey, say, you guys, what do you do with organic? Do you support organic sales at this? Do you, what do you do? Because farmers markets, community farmers markets, they all have their bylaws and they handle it each in a different way. Make sure you have adequate tools and labor to manage weeds. As I mentioned, weeds are the #1 challenge in organic crop systems. And then find a mentor to offer guidance and suggestions to you. Somebody who you can go to, I call them answer grapes. I'm like, hey, Vicki, I'm a friend of mine whose name happens to be Vicki, is a great farmer and she processes food. So she's got the food safety really well under her belt. Her husband, Tom, knows the farming system. I go to them when I'm trying to figure things out about weed management, about building the soil a little better. We all need somebody to bounce ideas off of and help each other out. And that community of farmers is critical to help you get through it all. So part of the organic certification is an organic transition plan, and this actually has a form, but this is the kind of information that is involved in it. Everything from your plan for your organic practices for the next 3 years, and note that the date of eligibility for organic certification, say this last June is the last time you sprayed any pesticide that was not allowed in organic. So 3 years from June will be the first time you could sell a certified organic product from that field. And that's how you calculate that. Maintain your records and your map. Record your plans and your practices. Have a clipboard and carry it around and write everything down. If you have a laborer, get a clipboard and put a post in on a nail and keep it there and say, when you do the cultivation, please record. When you spray, please record. When you plant, please record. And that way there's no questions as to when or who or how much. Receipts and labels are critical for both inputs like manure and sales of your product. So this is the organic farm plan I mentioned, and notice this is page 1 of 20. So it's pretty lengthy, but it's simple questions. It's just, plugging along. It's kind of like a TurboTax if you use TurboTax for your taxes. And you do need a soil test. Soil tests are part of to help you plan what your field needs. This was the field that I certified down at Research Station to grow perennial wheat and intermediate wheatgrass, but the field history is critical to know if there's any lingering pesticides, and then what you plan to do in terms of, hey, I've had a big problem with this insect, so how am I going to try to reduce it? And your water test is typically for if you use irrigation, like from an open pond. This is for organic, not for food safety. Excuse me. So ways to improve your organic matter. Maybe you've heard all about organic matter. What is this stuff? I can't see it. It's weird. It's the stuff that holds the nutrients in place, that helps your water drain after a heavy rain, to help your field dry out after the winter snows so that you can get in and plant. It's the thing that makes that crop, that perennial pasture regrow. for the fourth year, even though they predicted it only growing for 3 years, because it makes a resilient soil that can tolerate a little bit of adversity, such as drought or excess rain, or perhaps you grazed it too long. And so building organic matter is your best friend in terms of making your soil stronger and more resistant to stress. You can make good observations after weather events, even when the snow is melting. Go out and see where it drains, where it doesn't. See during drought times, look at your crops. Even look at your weeds. Which weeds are still alive? Which weeds are dying? And if even that's not a field crop, a field with crops in it, you still can get a lot of information just from volunteer plants. So you adjust your things needed according to your soil test, for nutrients, for pH. Grow cover crops. I don't know if you ever want to learn more about cover crops, but I work a lot with cover crops, and you can do the best cover crop if you've never grown a cover crop, whether it's a half-acre vegetable or a 500-acre field crop, is to grow rye. You can still plant it now throughout the U.S., even up here in Michigan, up till even just before Christmas, and it'll take off in the spring. But if you are looking for a legume like clover, you can mix clovers with the rye. And that's a really good beginner cover crop. And if you're doing it organic, be sure it doesn't have any insecticide on it. I don't know if you've seen seeds that are pink. Well, that's an insecticide on it. You don't want to use that in organic. Be sure not to till your soil when it's wet. You'll end up with big clods. You ruin your tilth or your crumb, or your ability for your seeds to come up easily and the roots to go down easily. That's why you don't till your soil when it's wet. And note that after you plant, put on manure. I'm saying manure, not compost. It requires 120 days from the day you applied till your day you can harvest. And that's for the sake of E. coli, and it's a food safety issue that's part of the organic plan. All right, so next is, you want to secure organic markets. Well, you can do all you want to grow beautiful crops or raise beautiful animals, but you got to have a place to sell it. And if you don't, then it's just a really expensive hobby, and good food for your family. But anyway, so engage with markets that offer a fair organic price, and really ask them, what price do you pay for organic? It has to be more than conventional. Otherwise, it's not worth your time. Unless you feel that, hey, it's a small market, it's growing, I see potential, it's local community, I want to support them, and I feel they'll support me down the road. So you start out little by little, they see how wonderful your product is, and then hopefully up the price. But that requires a really good, honest relationship. So you want to construct or purchase a place to store your produce. Remember I said post-harvest is critical. Assure that you have good transportation to get the product there. Animals are always a challenge to get to the butchers and then to the markets, because they require a bigger a truck or a trailer. And then even vegetables can often require some sort of climate control. Maintain your bookkeeping and understand the agreements with your markets. That is critical. Have adequate labor to make all the ends meet. And then if you want to certify, remember it's an option. You can use by word of mouth if you go to local markets and tell people, hey, we use organic practices, and you don't certify, or you're trying out the 5,000 or less route. Or you say, hey, we want to certify, we're going to sell to 2 or 3 markets in the area. We need that NOP label. Okay, then you find yourself an organic certifier. Identify the agency that meets your expectations. You are hiring them. And here is a place that Felicia can share the organic certification, where to start, in the chat box. And I'm sorry, I got so excited about soil health, I forgot to mention that we have 2 bulletins on soil health. And the orange one is where it says where to start. I really worked hard to make it a primer to help people starting out in the organic soil building and sustainable soil building. But I defined a lot of the words to make it user-friendly. And please, if you feel that there's stuff in there that I'm missing or that I'm not meeting my point, share with me in an email or a phone call. I would value that greatly. So all these things are critical for good, smart farming, whether it's organic or sustainable. I've given you some tools that you can go about to go through, start with the process of organic certification, if that's your wish. There are many market farmers market vendors who do not certify organic, but they follow organic practices and they share that with the customer. But they cannot say, my stuff is certified organic. They say, I follow organic practices and I'm not certified, but invite them to your open house at your farm if that's what you have. I don't know. I mean, a lot of farmers, local farmers in this area have open houses. Not this year, but they'll have open farm tours, tomato tastings, potlucks, and really makes a difference in terms of that relationship. Relationship, as we all know, is critical when you're working with your communities. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your participation, and I really look forward to your questions, and I'm going to zoom up to the chat, and Felicia, maybe she could help me with responses.
So our first question, thank you, Ms. Vicki, that was wonderful. Our first question just needed clarity on selling less than 5,000. So
Okay.
Does that include meat and dairy, or is it just fruit and vegetable only?
It's everything.
That's
It's and that's horrible because I mean, you and I know well, if you sell one 4 or 5 cows, you've exceeded that $5,000 mark. And I have argued with people on that. And I don't think it's fair at all. It should be based on the commodity or the product that you're selling. I mean, $5,000 worth of lettuce versus $5,000 worth of beef is 2 different ball games, right?
It is. Definitely. Yeah.
So Nadine asks, for manure, would it be okay if you allow manure to sit for 6 months to a year before applying in the soil? This is a great question. Boy, I couldn't have planted that question if I tried. Nadine, it's in organic systems. To make compost, you have to follow a certain process. And that means that the temperature must come up to 150 within 3 times and within 15 days, and you have to turn it 3 times. So say you have a pile of manure you just brought in from the cow farm down the street. And that manure, you add some carbon, like leaves. This time of year, lots of leaves available, and you want to make compost out of it. So you turn it, and you get those soil thermometers. They're like $9, and it's a really long probe. You stick it in the middle. It should reach your 150 degrees. Record that. Remember, we're always keeping records. Record the date that temperature went and what the temperature was. And then as the temperature starts to drop, you turn that pile again. You wait for it to heat up about 12, 24 hours, take the temperature. You do that 3 times. After you rotate, take the temperature. If the temperature reaches 150, you now have organic compost. And that is when you can apply that any time of the growing season. And you do not wait the 120 days. But if you let your manure just sit, it's just sitting manure. But so it's still treated as manure. You have to wait the 120 days because the idea is heating up the compost. You're killing weed seed as well as pathogens within that soil, and even larvae. I mean, lots of grubs are in the soil, and grubs are in the manure. So it's important to kill them before they get into your organic crop.
And the only thing I would add to that is being very mindful of where you get your manure. So if you're going to bring manure off your farm, so you go to someone else, be very, very mindful. And like I said, we're a community, so you should be able to ask that farmer, because it is certain medications that are given to animals that end up in the manure. And these type of medications do not leave your soil once they're there. So you have to be very, very careful of where you get your manure. And like I said, this ask. Sometimes the farmer don't know though. So you have to do your research, but when you're certified organic, you have to be very careful where you get your inputs from.
So right now, organic doesn't require you to know what the animal eats, but you do have to respect if the farmer has sprayed anything on the manure, like to keep flies off of, for example. You can't have a treated pile of manure for that aspect. But like Felicia said, it's important, and not so much, it's not required with NOP, with the organic.
Exactly.
But it is a good ethical practice, because we all have heard about the problems with antibiotics, that we're getting resistance because we're exposed to it every which way. You know, the fact that a doctor prescribes it to us, the animals get it, conventional animals get it. Organic animals do not get antibiotics in the U.S., which, give me a soapbox and I'll talk to you about that. But the manure is what the animal eats. Like, for example, if the animal had GMO corn, and that manure is still allowed in USDA NOP organic. If it could be an ethical issue for you, and that's well and good, and that's something that you could boast about. I get my manure, even though it's not required by NOP, is organic, and that's a horn to blow, because it's not. That's why NOP allows non-organic manure, because there's not enough to make all the compost that organic farmers need.
So we talked about organic and growing sustainable. Is sustainable a certification? So with that question is not. I mean, we have our certified naturally grown. We have all of these different certifications before it's a certification just for sustainability. One, it depends on what you're growing and what you're raising. Animals have different certifications than vegetable and fruit production. So,
but just a minute, certified naturally grown is a different system than NOP. Yes. Under NOP, the USDA NOP, the only certification is organic. Transitional, that's that process where you go 3 years. It's sort of like practicing organic, keeping records, figuring out how to manage the pests, and getting your soil adjusted to the needs that for the healthy crops. Yeah. That 3 year period of transition is not certifiable. But there are some companies that have said, you know, we recognize that transition crops are better for our system, better for our market than conventional. We will pay some premium. And Chipotle was an example. We had Chipotle buying all the black beans that were transitional for their system. And then they would pay a premium. And Organic Valley did the same thing, trying to help farmers out, but also recognizing the value of that crop. Now, certified naturally grown is not part of the USDA. It's a farmer to farmer, a peer review, if you will. Mm-hmm. And it's a program that farmers say, I'm going to work to create a management system that qualifies for this system. And they fill out the paperwork. This is a company that has its own paperwork, its own system, and then they ask a colleague farmer to come and do the inspection. And the inspection, Felicia, is every 3 years for naturally grown, or every 2 years? It's not every year.
No, it's not every year. It is a few years. And like, I like how you say it is peer to peer. Yeah. We always try to say, most of us, is like, it's your stepping stone. So it starts teaching you how to keep records, but it is not certified organic. And so we want to make sure we're clarifying that. And some of our certified organic farmers have both. And so it's just up to you as a farmer what you choose to have. But if you are moving towards becoming certified organic, that may be a methodology for you. Some of our farmers use it because of the price point. It helps to learn when it's not as expensive, and then you start making money, then you have the financial resources to pay for your certification with to become certified organic. So again, many ways to become certified organic, but that's just one way that you possibly can utilize as a stepping stone.
Yeah. And then the other certification is GMO free. And that I had a colleague in the Center for Regional Food Systems who used to help meat farmers do that. And he said it was such a headache. But if you're doing a national label, it's worth it, you know? I mean, I'm frustrated with it because it labels things that are just GMO free on things that we don't even have GMOs for. So, but they can do that because it's still GMO free, right? So I see Isabel asked a question. What does OMRI stand for? It's Organic Material Review Institute. Okay, and that's, so if you Google omri.org, they're based in Oregon. They are not hired by the USDA, but it's a company that, say for example, I've come up with a pesticide for flea beetles, and it's a mixture of it's a secret mixture, but it's got garlic in it and some sesame oil in it, and I wanted to have that verified. Thank you. Have it verified whether it is allowed in organic. So I would fill out the paperwork, pay a price. The paperwork includes how did I make it, what are the ingredients, and Omri is obliged to not disclose that. They then check it out that not only are the ingredients organic, but the process in which those ingredients were blended is an organic system. And then you can go to any store these days and look at things like safer soaps and fish emulsions, and you'll see that Omri logo on it, a lot of them. And then you know that they've gone through the company's gone through the process to show to the buyer, yes, indeed, this is allowed in organic. But like I said, if you're certified organic, please confirm that with your certifier.
Yeah, be very, very careful about buying many things from box stores that say it's organic. We've had many farmers that lose their organic certification by doing that. So like Ms. Vicki said, if you take a picture of it, send it to your certifier. Even if you're not certified organic, they still help you. I know, I always forget the name. We work with them so much in Florida, the certifier in Florida, but I know for a fact they said they will help you even if you have not started working with them, just calling them up and asking them or emailing them that particular brand name, and they will let you know yay or nay, because so many labels say organic, but they are not approved for certification. So be very, very careful with that. And like I said, you can lose your certification if you use the wrong product.
That's right. Yep. The certification would be lost for 3 years. It'd be like you're transition.
Starting all over. Yeah. And you definitely don't want to do that, especially when you have invested in it. Now at this time, is there any more, Ms. Smith? I hope we answered your question. And if anyone have any more questions, please, you can unmute yourself or drop it in the chat. We have a couple of more minutes. We can definitely continue to answer your questions, but you could do that at this time.
Moses is another good one. They're out of La Crosse, Wisconsin. They're the ones that put on the Upper Midwest Organic Conference. It's a phenomenal conference if you're anywhere in this region. It's the largest organic conference in the US, even bigger than what California offers. It's really incredible. And a lot, I know Ohio has a very nice one. There's lots of California, Kansas. There's lots of states with organic conferences, and that's a great way to start your network. You know, you don't have to be certified to go to that. In fact, I think a lot of people are not. They're trying to find their way in the farming world. What is the best route for them to go?
Yeah, I'm putting one in that's kind of this way is Organic Grower School in North Carolina.
Oh,
They
yeah.
do one as well. So regardless of where you're located in the country, you can find organic conferences, organic workshops and trainings and so forth. There's many, many entities that will assist you. And like Ms. Vicki said, the certifiers, they're there to help you. So definitely reach out to them and start the conversation. And you can do that without being a customer of theirs. So just
Right.
reach out to them so you could just start that communication and start learning what they offer, because all of them are different. I will tell you that all of them are different. So it takes a little while to even understand sometimes the way they charge and so forth. So get the ball rolling. Even if you're 3 years away, it doesn't hurt to start now conversating with them. Several things I wanted to add to kind of highlight some of the things Ms. Vicki talked about. When it comes to your weed suppression, one thing I know she didn't mention was silage tarp. So of course we have landscape fabric and, you know, the plastic mulch and wood chips and so forth. But sometimes we forget we could utilize silage tarp for weed suppression. Even though technically they're not used for weed suppression, but here in the United States, we definitely have been utilizing them for that as well.
Recycle too.
I'm sorry to hear you.
Oh, it's a great way to recycle as well, because
Yep.
it's coming off of the silage and it's really thick. So if you've got a place to store it from season to season, I know we had in Vermont, there was a great organic conference. We had a farmer roundtable and farmers were talking about that. And they said the challenge is it's heavy, but that also means the fact that it's not blowing away on them so easily. But
Yes.
so they said with 2 farmers, they can cover, move it for, you know, it's about a quarter of an acre, which is
Mhm.
pretty phenomenal. But
Yeah.
I guess you got to be strong to be a farmer, right?
Yes, and you can get it smaller. We do have companies that have them a little bit smaller that can just cover up a area that you getting ready from, like a backyard, you know, smaller. So it is companies that have the smaller ones up to the larger ones. And definitely, you know, if you have issues with finding it, you know, just reach out to us. We'll help you with that. Another is biodegradable, and I don't know what to call it. I use like the biodegradable paper. To me, that's all it is. It's paper, and so it probably has various names as well. But it's just brown paper that you can utilize to help you with weed suppression as well. And again, it's biodegradable. It's paper, so it helps. And then you're putting wood chips on top of that. And so forth, and whatever you choose to put on top of it. One, because you know it's going to degrade, but it starts the process if you're moving into that. And you, like you say, you have the wood chips on top. All of that is going to degrade down. So you have those things that she mentioned that I just wanted to add. And then the other was the cottage food law, making sure you check with your state Department of Agriculture with that to see if, one, is it offered in your state? And if so, what are the rules and regulations? All of the states are very, very different, and some are easier than others. Here in Mississippi, our cottage food law is so easy. We love it. And so many people of all ages have benefited from our cottage food law. So please check it out in your state. I do know that Georgia offer their cottage food law as well, but it's a little difficult. It's not unmanageable. You can do it, but it does require a lot of paperwork and so forth and things that are required for you. So please check out your state Department of Agriculture when it comes to your cottage food law, but it is beneficial for you, again, to get your feet wet. And before you want to move into food processing and health permits and all of those sorts of things, you don't have to have that depending on what you're trying to produce. Here in the state of Mississippi, it is some things that you do have to have a health permit based upon the product. And so that's why it's key. If this is something you're looking to do 2-3 years from now, you know, next year, get started now with doing the research and stuff. So definitely wanted to just add those things in, and want to open the floor up for any questions.
I have a question. This is Nadine.
Yes, ma'am.
I use organic practices, but I am to the point that I am ready to give up. I I'm trying to find out if anybody knows an organic product that actually works. This summer, I planted peas. They were actually beautiful. And one day, they're beautiful. The next day, all of these aphids just covered everything. And I think out of two 80-foot rows, I got maybe 5 peas that weren't eaten by those things. You know how they just suck the life out of them.
Yeah.
And the same with my turnips. I planted turnips. I cut the peas down, planted turnips, beautiful turnips and mustards. And they were maybe about 6, 7, 8, 7, 8 inches, 9, 10 inches tall. And just as I was getting ready to thin them out and harvest some, I go out, then there are all these bug bites. And I have spent gazoodles of money on things that didn't work. You know, at least there's this spray. It's organic. It's got the armory on the bottle. And I buy them and I just go out and spray. And it's like they leave you a thank you note and says it's a delicious.
So a couple ideas here.
Yeah.
First off have you ever tried floating row covers? Floating row.
No.
There
No,
are,
and the problem is I'm kind of limited in terms of what I can do. I'm physically, like I'm in my 70s, so a lot of the hard work I can't do. I want something that I can manage.
if you're a sewer, it's like a very light interfacing if you sew. So it's a very sheer white cloth that goes over the plants. And then you just put a little bit of soil or a bag of sand or whatever works for you to keep it from blowing away. But when it says floating, you don't have to put hoops in there to support it. You just give it enough room so that when your plant grows, the plant pushes up against the cover. And that would be the perfect thing for your turnips. Now for your peas, that would be a little more complicated because I presume that you grow your peas up on a trellis?
Actually, no, like this time they were top pick pink eye purple hull peas.
Oh, okay. Oh, yum. Black eyed peas. Those are different. Okay. Yeah. So you could do the same thing with them. Floating row covers are, and you can reuse them year to year. I take mine, roll them up, pull any leaves are off and put a bungee on them or something to keep them from unrolling in the winter and store them. And I can use them again. And, you know, if you end up with a hole, you just cut it and piece the other one together. But that's the least toxic, the most reusable approach to keeping insects out. I use that on all my squashes, my summer squashes, because otherwise we end up.
So it's this cloth. You can just lay it on top of them and it won't smash them.
No, it's very light, but it's very tight, very fine weave, so the insects cannot enter. And it's called floating row cover, and you can get it in lots of different widths. I mean, you see some huge fields with it all the way across. You could also buy it in the 36-inch width, a yard width that it goes right down your row. So that would be my suggestion. But neem oil is also a pretty good pesticide for soft-bodied insects like aphids. And the one thing to keep in mind is organic pesticides are broad spectrum, meaning they aren't specific to one particular pest. So when there are pollinators out like honeybees, try not to use it during that time because sadly it will kill those honeybees as well.
Okay, now I have used neem oil, and there is a product, and I got to look at it a little closer. It's called diatomaceous earth.
Yes, I'm familiar.
You can use that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, but I've used neem oil. My reservation, like you said, with neem oil is because I don't want to kill the ladybugs, and I can't use neem oil while they are pollinating. I can use neem oil on greens because they don't need
There's no fly.
pollinators. Right.
Yeah, unless you're doing seed. But
And then making sure that now, Ms. Nadine, if it rains, any type of dew and stuff, all of that will just be washed off. So you got to reapply
And how
both
long-
the diatomaceous earth and the neem.
And how long do you have to wait after applying neem oil to harvest?
1 day.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay.
because it's natural. Neem is an actual tree. It's natural.
It's
Right.
And then now, Miss Nadine, are you just doing neem oil concentrated? Are you putting like the liquid soap? Are you mixing it at all? Or are you
I
using it
mix the
concentrated?
neem oil with I put like in a gallon sprayer. I mix the neem oil with Dawn.
Yes, ma'am. That's yeah, because
And
that
the
helps
prob-
it stick.
Now, the problem with that is that I sprayed my collards with that, and it turned the leaves like really green. And I'm thinking, oh my God, when I start cooking them, it's just going to be foam and soap.
Now, the one thing that I was getting ready to tell you, you got to switch up your soap. See, you got to use soap that don't have all the stuff in it either. So you got to switch up and use a more natural soap as well.
Recommend one, please.
Bonner's soap.
Bonners can be utilized. That's what most people use. 7th generation.
Yeah. So like
The
but-
Bonner, did you say Bonner or Bonner?
B as in boy. I'll put it in the chat, but Bonners and oh shoot, I did it too fast. Bonners is apostrophe S. So and I said 7th generation. That's another one. But yes, ma'am, because what's happening is you're using a inorganic, so synthetic,
Right.
and then you're using a natural neem. So you don't. Yeah, that may be some issue is Bronner's. Thank you, Miss Tila. See, that's what I love about farmers. We always help each other out. I love
And
it.
where
Thank
can
you.
that be found?
Oh my goodness, Bronner's. I know Whole Foods carry it if you have a natural grocery store in your area.
You have a whole,
Whole Foods,
Yeah.
Foods carry it. Yeah, and you can order it online. I
Yep.
know Amazon would carry it. I know. So
If you have it co-ops, they would all have it. And
yes.
then 7th generation, I've seen that even in our main stores.
Yep, Kroger's and different. I know Kroger's have carried 7th generation. I don't know if Walmart carries it, but definitely. All right, Mr. Carr put the link of 7th generation from Amazon, Miss Nadine, in the link. And then I spell Bronner's, Bronner's, Bronner's. Very, very good natural soaps that you can utilize in place. Oh, Miss Tila put it up, Miss Nadine. Can you see it? You probably have seen that before too, especially at Rainbow.
Comes in a big bottle with lots of funny information over every single inch of the label.
Yes.
It's good reading. Breakfast.
Yep. It's not always green. This is just this particular
because
variety.
it's different. Different scents and varieties and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good. That's really good information to, I wouldn't even think about to mention the sticker to be a natural soap.
Yeah, and then how much soap mix the neem oil with? It's just a little because you're only few drops based upon if you're doing a gallon jug, and this is for Miss Isabel. If you're doing a gallon jug, you're just doing, if you're turning your soap bottle up, it's drops of soap. That's it. You don't want to make it soapy. We're not doing that. It's only utilized for the oil and water to adhere to itself. Since oil and water don't mix, the soap is helping to adhere it to the leaf that you're getting ready to spray. So that's the only usage for the soap. That's it. But we want to use natural soaps if we want to stick to doing natural way of growing. Yeah.
Okay, because I put about a tablespoon of the detergent.
Drops. That's quite a bit. We don't want to create suds. You're not trying to create suds. No.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? And if Miss Vicki is still on here.
Yep.
Miss Vicki ran. She have left. I wanted to thank her. She was helping me out in the chat as well.
Oh, another Vicki.
And then, soil solarization. that's what we were kind of speaking on, utilizing like the soil, the silage tarps, really, yeah, utilizing the heat to kill your grass seeds and weeds and stuff like that. So it's so many different things that can help, especially in the Southeast. We get inundated so much with weeds, so much. And so, but we want to be mindful that if you're going to do organic, you have to make sure what type of landscape fabrics, what type of weed protection you're utilizing, because you don't want the leakage. No, what is it? That's not the word.
Like a coating or treatment?
Yeah, you don't want that to be, I can't think of the word, but you don't want that to go into your soil. So you have to be very, very careful with what you buy when you're dealing with weed suppression, because the sun, we know, can bake things in. And so if you don't have the right type of product, you're going to have that soil, and it really is really seeping. Yeah, you don't want it to get into your soil at all. So we have to be very careful of what we're purchasing and stuff. And let's see, let me read this from Mr.
So
Carl.
Carl shared with us some floating row covers, where to find it in the online. Thanks, Carl. That's really good, because that could be tricky. So those folks who are thinking, let me check out this floating row cover, grab that link and take a look, because I think you'll find it useful. I mean, in a pinch, besides keeping insects out, it also helps to reduce frost. Say, for example, this year we had such an early frost in Michigan. It was like the 1st of October, and that's even the end of September. It was way too early. So farmers would take floating row covers, and they may double up the double layer and put it over their peppers and tomatoes, that they still have lots of fruit to harvest, just to give them some protection at night. And then in the morning they would take it off. And that's another great advantage of having that floating row cover around.
Yeah. And please check out the chat. Mr. Carr put in there how to, what in defining how to utilize soil solarization. So please check that out, because these are all ways of doing it naturally. You're really with minimal type things and products. We don't want to get caught up in buying so much stuff, especially if you're new and beginning into organic. So it takes time. Nothing's going to happen overnight. So we just want to ease into, if you're new to organics, these different methodologies. But thank you, Mr. Carr, for adding that in there, the explanation of soil or the solar, let me make sure I'm saying it right, soil solarization. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yep, lots of people think it's sterilization. You're not sterilizing the soil. We don't want to sterilize the soil.
No, we do not want to sterilize the soil. We need all of those deeming microbes and fungi and all of that. We definitely want all of that in our soil. We never want sterilized or quote unquote dead soil. We don't want that. No. So Ms. Vicki, I'm gonna let you close us out with just last words, parting words. The only thing I'll say is join Ms. Vicki on the 18th. We can go into part 2 of organics, and she says she'll lean towards doing cover crops based upon what everyone wanted to hear. So please join us again, same time, same link, for the Weekly Wednesday workshop with Ms. Vicki again on the 18th. So Ms. Vicki, I'll let you close us out.
Okay, so thanks so much for your time and great questions and dialogue. It's been really inspiring, and I've learned some things too, and that's always wonderful. I swear every time I go to a farmer's field and talk with him or her, I come away learning more than I've shared with them. So it's a great opportunity for me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You all have a great rest of the evening, and we appreciate you joining us. And always take a look at our Facebook page, our NCAT Facebook page, where all of these notices go, as well as sign up for our newsletters to make sure that you get all of our various offices, their particular workshops as well. But thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.